In today's video, I'm showing off how I made this main menu UI for my game in Godot. So as you can see here, it looks good when we resize it. We can even resize it this way and it looks fine. And if I push the store button, you can see the buttons have animations, and the other two buttons, play and settings, also have directs to their own page. So the first thing I want to show off to make this is how we get it to resize to all windows. So if I go into project and project settings, if I go under window, and we scroll down to the stretch. For my game, I have canvas items as the mode and aspect as expand. However, by default, it will be disabled and ignore. And what this means is that the screen will stretch the size of the viewport and all the items inside it so that it maintains a general aspect ratio. Without this, every item will remain the same size. So as the screen gets bigger, everything else looks proportionately smaller. But you wouldn't have to do this, and what you could do is inside all your control nodes, if your game doesn't work like this, you'd have to go over here and set all of your anchor presets to these four where it stretches, or these three up here as well. And for the next thing, I want to show off how we keep everything centered using these. So for my game, I have a background, which is a sprite 2D, and it is anchored. If I go into the expector, it is anchored directly in the center of the screen. And by default, everything will anchor to the top left. However, if you anchor it to the center, no matter what size we resize it to, all this will remain in the center of the screen. And since we have stretch turned on, it means that it will always stay roughly within these bounds. However, sometimes if the screen's a little wider, you might get a little more of this or a little more of this. And then for my quit button, I have it anchored in the bottom right. And then for all the other ones, I have them anchored to the center top. So the screen, if it stretches, this will always remain in the bottom left. These will always remain in the center, but towards the top, and this will always remain in the direct center. Now the next thing I want to show off is how we get these buttons to look like this in the animation. So what I do is go down to theme, and I created a new theme called main theme over here. And inside this theme, you can click on this dropper and click on button. And then if we go to this category over here, we can set the style for normal, pressed, hover, and focus. So normal is what the button looks like when no one's hovering it or doing anything to it. And for this, I set a border of 7 on the bottom and a darker color. And what this does is it gives it this dark border around the bottom, which makes it look 3D. I also turn on corner radius and set all the corner radiuses to 15 to make it rounded. And then in our pressed, which is when we click the button, we have the same exact setup, which you could drag this over to here and then say make it unique. I have the same exact setup, except I set the top as the border width and colorless or transparent as the border color. So what this means is that this part shifts up here and all the button moves down a little, except this is transparent. So it gives the illusion that you're pressing the button and the button is 3D. Then for focus, I disabled focus. Focus is this little white line that will outline the button when you've just clicked it. And for the 3D buttons, it doesn't look as good, so I turn it off, but you're free to keep it. And then hover is when you're hovering over a button, but before you click it. So for that style, I did the exact same thing as the regular normal, except I made all the colors like 20 or so lighter. And when we run this, you can see that the buttons look 3D. When we click a button, it looks flat like we pressed it. And when we hover over it, it has a lighter tint. So you can see the store button does exactly that. We can hover over it, we can push it. It looks like we're pushing it down, and you can tell exactly what button we're hovering. As part of theme, if we go project settings, theme, we can set a custom font. So the base font I use for this game is this blue regular. However, I also use this League Spartan for the buttons. So inside the button theme itself, I can go over to text and I set the font from here. So this font up here is in the blue font. However, the button's theme is the Spartan font. And once you have this theme all made, you could apply other things to it too. You could make more of these hovered. You could change the color of the font. You just save it. And then any button you want to add this theme to, you simply scroll down to theme, open up theme, and drag your theme once you saved it into here. And if you want to see a more in-depth explanation of how we get the window to be resizable, as I only cover it briefly at the start of the video, you should click on this video here. And until next time, see ya.